Okay,
Hello.
well, good
Oh, I'm sorry.
morning.
I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Frederick Joshua. I haven't met Judge Durkin, Judge Lopez, or Judge Johnson, and I just want to tell you guys that we are so excited. I know I am. I know the impact project is. We thank you guys for having and being on this for us. This is an esteemed panel, and the information that these students will gain is be very helpful. So
Of
thank
course,
you.
yeah. I wasn't going to leave you out, TJ. I got you. Just wanted to start off with, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Allie Pruitt. I'm the CEO and founder of the Impact Project, which is a 501c3 organization aimed at making the next generation even better and more successful. So we host these success sessions here on Zoom, and I couldn't do it without my right-hand man, TJ, who helps me moderate the panels and make things happen. We're both students at UIC John Marshall, and we are so excited to host this panel today with some incredible justices and judges and law clerks. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. We have Judge Tom Durkin, who's in the Northern District of Illinois, Judge Mark Lopez, who's in Domestic Relations Division in Cook County, Justice Sharon Johnson, who is in the First District Appellate Court, and Joseph Deloney, correct me?
It's Deloney.
Who is Justice Carl Walker's law clerk in the First District as well. So welcome all of you. We'll go ahead and just kind of pose the question to have you introduce yourselves further as to what was your path to either the bench or your law clerk position to give students some sort of background about you. And we'll start with Justice Johnson.
All right. Well, I'm going to go pre-law, just so you have an idea as to, where I came from and you can identify with me. Some of you may come from the same place, and it'll encourage you to know that you're on the right path. I'm a native Chicagoan, product of Chicago Public Schools. I attended Lindblom, for those of you who are native Chicagoans as well. From there, I attended Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois, and then from there, Howard University School of Law in Washington, D.C. Now, while I was attending Howard, I clerked for the U.S. Department of Justice. After graduating, I clerked for the Honorable Lawrence Lawson in Monmouth County, New Jersey. Thereafter, I decided to come back home to Chicago, where I worked for the City of Chicago's Mayor's Office of Workforce Development in their contracts department. Thereafter, I decided to go into private practice. I opened my own law firm, or as they say, hung my shingle, and practiced for 13 years. At that point, I decided I wanted to try my hand at becoming a judge, and I campaigned and was elected to the Circuit Court of Cook County. And after serving my time in traffic, as we call it, everyone starts in traffic, I then heard or was assigned to the parentage call, where I heard cases of individuals who were not married but had a child in common. Thereafter, I was assigned to the Domestic Relations Division, where Judge Lopez is now. I was assigned to the 6th District, which is a suburban district in Markham, Illinois. And so I served on the bench from 2010 until 2020. In December of 2020, I was then elected to the Illinois Appellate Court, and I sit in the 6th District. So I'm still sort of getting my feet wet here. I've only been here about 2 months, but we've been off and running. I have learned quite a bit, and I hope to share it with you a little later this morning.
Thank you. We'll go over to Judge Mark Lopez. Oh, I think you're muted, Judge.
I sure am. Okay, let's do that again. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending. It's always a privilege to speak with young people and try to assist as any way we can. I started out, I was a UIC grad of undergrad. I went to Northern Illinois University. It was the first class to graduate from the DeKalb campus in 1983. I began my career as a Cook County State's attorney, where I did both appellate work and trial work. I was in private sector in my late father's law firm in the Pilsen community in Chicago at 18th and Ashland, where most of our clientele was bilingual, English and Spanish, and it was a general practice, so I learned a little bit about a lot of things in those years there. I also served as an assistant attorney general doing both civil prosecutions and defense work. And I was the head of the workers' comp division for the state of Illinois at the time I became appointed as a judge in 1999. So I've served for 21 years. It's always a privilege. Unlike Justice Johnson, I was not elected by the public. I'm an appointed judge, which I'm actually elected by the elected judges. So there's only the 240 judges in Cook County, Illinois that vote for associates. And what I'm blessed with is we have job security because we never have to face the public in an election, and we routinely get reappointed every 4 years. So it's been a privilege serving, but it's also been quite the opportunity. Being a judge gives you a platform to do many things, not only to handle cases and try to do your best to administer justice and give fair rulings in cases, but it also gives you the opportunity to speak, to teach, to mentor. And these are the kind of things that I've always encouraged during my career. And it's, quite frankly, it's probably been one of the things that have been most gratifying and makes the experience more rich, is to have law students work with me. I've had probably 2 students almost every semester for the last 18 years or so, and many of them are out practicing in many different fields. I personally handle domestic relations, which up until 2016 was exclusively divorce cases, but we merged with the parentage division. And so now we do parentage cases, which are basically couples that have families but have never married. So a lot of the very similar experience. I'm very, very fortunate to have served as I have. I've, been been fortunate enough to make a lot of law. We rule, the appellate court rules, they give published opinions, sometimes the Illinois Supreme Court rules, and you've shaped the law. When you do as I have, I've committed myself to this area rather than changing areas and taking transfers to other areas, because I just love what I do. And I hope that all of you in your experiences find a place in the legal profession where you truly love what you do.
Thank you, Judge Lopez. We'll move over to Judge Tom Durkin.
Well, hi, everybody. My name is Tom Durkin. I'm a United States District Court judge in Chicago. My career path was I went to U of I undergrad down in Champaign and got an accounting degree and a CPA. Realized I wanted to not be an accountant, so I went to law school. I went to DePaul in Chicago. And oddly, I was turned down from Northwestern and U of I. My LSAT score wasn't high enough, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because by going to DePaul, I was able to take advantage of extern programs. I externed at the U.S. Attorney's Office, I externed for the federal defender, and finally I externed for a federal judge while I was going to DePaul. And I love the federal building. I used to skip classes to go watch trials. I don't advise you to, I'm not giving you advice to do that, but it worked for me. And the externship with the federal judge, a judge named Stan Roskowski, got me the clerkship, which was unusual. And so I clerked for him for 2 years, law clerk position. It's a great job. You help a judge, you help draft opinions, you do research for him, and you really learn the nuts and bolts of federal litigation, and you get to watch trials. From there, I went to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Chicago. I worked there for 13 years, tried about 50 or 60 jury trials. and was the first assistant for the last 3 years I was there. From there, I went to a law firm called Mayer Brown, which is a big law firm, and I went and worked there for 20 years. And then I applied. Literally, you do apply to become a federal judge. I applied when there was an opening, went through a number of screenings with Senator Durbin's screening committee. Ultimately, was nominated by President Obama, confirmed by the United States Senate. So I don't stand for election. It ends up being a lifetime appointment. I'm 7 years or 7.5 years on the bench now. It's a fantastic job. I have, unlike Judge Lopez, I don't specialize in one area. It's a very general number of types of cases. I hear both criminal and civil cases. Every type of civil case you can think of, all kinds of federal cases, civil rights cases, employment cases, securities fraud, patent cases, product liability cases, but we get many state court types of cases too that come to us on diversity jurisdiction, where federal courts can hear state matters if the citizens are from different states and there's a mountain controversy that's above a certain limit. So it's been a wonderful job. I love it. It's the best job you can have at my age. I think the best job you can have at your age, at a younger age for me, was being a prosecutor, whether as with Justice Johnson, where she was in the state's attorney's office, and Judge Lopez, I think, was. But it's these are all terrific jobs, and we can talk more about them later. But that's where I'm at.
Thank you. And
Hi, my name is Joseph Deloney. I want to apologize for my background. I just moved in, and so I'm using a coffee table as a desk. So I'm sitting on the floor right now, so please bear with me. But yeah, I was a part of the very unique COVID class of 2020. So I just graduated and passed the bar. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Hammond, Indiana, with a family of blue collar workers. Mainly everybody in my family worked at either Ford or Lear. I went to undergrad at Indiana University. Didn't plan on being a lawyer at all. I actually went there as a biology major, and yeah, I just couldn't keep up with the 8 a.m. chemistry classes. I switched my major to law and public policy, still had no intention of being a lawyer, but literally the beginning of my senior year, one of my advisors said, hey, you should apply to law school. I took the LSAT, did really well, and just went on from there. As far as law school, I was, while I was in law school, which I don't recommend doing, especially as a 1L, I was a graduate assistant, and I worked for a diversity program, mainly creating programs for students of color, mainly males, so that they can be more successful throughout undergrad. As far as my externships, my 1L year, I actually worked for an administrative law judge for the Indiana Civil Rights Commission. And then going into my 2L year, I actually worked with one of the best programs ever, which is the REACH program, the Reentry and Community Health Program at IU McKinney. And it's basically a federal program where we work with federal court and we help people who've been released. And basically, as far as we help them with civil matters so they don't, reoffend, whether it's helping them their arrearages, getting driver's licenses, jobs, things like that. And it was a great way to just get comfortable with the court system, especially the federal court system. My 2L year, the summer going into my 3L year, I participated in the Judicial Externship Opportunity Program, JOP, through the ABA. And that's where I ended up externing for Justice Carl Walker. Immediately, I, kind of fell in love with with working there. It was a lot of just hard work, just pretty much being consistent and, working on the fundamentals. Going into my 3L year, I actually externed for the Honorable Tanya Walden Pratt at the Indiana Federal District Court in the Southern District of Indiana. Unfortunately, it got cut short due to the pandemic, but it was still a great opportunity to extern there. And yeah, I just took the bar in the fall, and now I clerk for Justice Walker.
congratulations on graduating in a pandemic. We're so grateful to have all of you on here. One of the first questions I just want to clear up for all of our attendees is the difference between, I think everyone's thrown it out there, an extern and a clerk, and what is the difference there, and how do the job duties differ? So anyone can answer that, but I just want to, before we get into the nitty gritty of all of these amazing positions, I want to make sure that our attendees are aware of kind of what the difference is as far as title and duties.
Well, for the Illinois Appellate Courts, our clerks are employees, and which means that they receive a salary, and they essentially write our first draft. So these are the people that get the first look at the case. They review it, do our initial research, and present an initial draft. And I discuss it with them, let them know where I want where I think I want the case to go, and we essentially write a final opinion or Rule 23 order. My externs, and I see Kimberly Cross is on here now. She was my extern. Actually, she was my extern at the circuit court level as well, and decided to join me at the appellate level. The externs are typically students who are either getting course credit or essentially volunteering for the to get the experience. And I use them to do a lot of research, fact checking with respect to if I have a draft opinion, I may want to make sure that we, all our cases are shepherdized. We're using, the appropriate cases. I'll have her, double check to make sure that it's a case of first impression. So it's their job is just as important, and it is my hope that they will, or that she will walk away with the experience she needs in order to embark on her legal career.
Great, thank you. Judge Durkin, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I think Justice Johnson covered it well. The law clerks get paid and the externs get school credit. Extern, you only get when you're in school. You only do it when you're in school. I have about 4 or 5 externs every semester who work with us, and they primarily work with the law clerks. And their main job, I don't view it as that they help us a little. Mainly, we help them. They get to watch court. They get to question me about things I do in a courtroom when we finish our motion call, and it's a great learning experience for students. I highly recommend it. Any type of externship with any judge or agency, U.S. attorney, public defender, Cook County State's attorney, attorney general, corporation counsel. They're all wonderful jobs to learn and learn if you like what they do. If you work at the U.S. attorney's office or the state's attorney's office and you extern there and you're a semester there and you realize, I don't want to do this. I'm not comfortable asking a judge to throw someone in jail. Well, you've learned an important lesson. And that's an area then you probably shouldn't pursue as you go further in your career. And you'll really find your passion with an externship, or you'll learn that you don't want to do something, which is just as important.
I would add to that with regards to the externships, in addition to getting class credit or just for the experience, some schools have federal work studies that actually pay the students to attend these programs as well. So I encourage you to check with your administration, because not all schools do it, but some do. Also, whether you're working in a court system or in a law office, public or private, just giving yourself exposure at your law school during your law school career to different areas and what they actually entail is very eye-opening. I think it helps you to have a clear idea what your interests are and where you'd like to focus. I think it's unrealistic, quite frankly, as somebody starting as a 1L knows exactly what they want to do and they're not going to deviate from that. And the more you're exposed to different things, it not only helps your background knowledge of the legal profession, but it also helps you focus a little more sharply as what is best for you or what you're most interested in.
Great, thank you. And Joseph, if you could tell the students kind of your transition from being an extern to now being a clerk, for students out there who may be either externing now or coming this summer or in their future semesters, and do enjoy their job duties, kind of like Judge Durkin said. What was that transition like to now becoming a clerk?
Yeah, so for me, I think the most important thing is to not take the opportunity for granted. I think that every opportunity you have to, I guess, prove yourself, take it. So for example, if you get an email, respond to it immediately, even if it's not something you need to, just to confirm, hey, I've received it. Showing up early in a suit every day. I noticed some externs and other people, they would kind of dress down casually and things like that. Like, no, take it very seriously. So for me, clerking for Justice Walker, that's what I did. I stayed in Hammond and took the train and took the South Shore. And I was usually like the first one there every morning. And I always wore a suit. And I just tried to, even some of the work, it wasn't as substantial as some of my other, legal experiences. So I also worked for the Indiana Public Defender Council. And there I had a lot of work, like constantly, whether it was going to, the prisons, or whether it was, help writing cases for, the to go to trial, things like that. It was a lot of work. And then when I ended up, externing for Justice Walker, it was pretty much, like Justice Johnson said, it wasn't as much work or as substantial or meaningful in my eyes, but I didn't take it for granted. And then when I externed for Judge Pratt, it was pretty much just, okay, here's your case, work on it. And it wasn't necessarily I was working on and drafting cases and bringing it to Judge Pratt. It was I would work on a case and then bring it to one of the clerks and they would help me with it. So the best advice I can give is just take it seriously and take it for granted. You never know who someone else knows. And if you just take that extra step of, being early, being on time, wearing a suit, always, having good communication, you never know how far that can go. So that'll be my best advice.
Thank you. So let's talk about, and again, I just want to, if anybody on the call, any attendees have questions that pop up, just use the raise hand feature and we'll make sure your questions get answered. But I want to talk about for the judges and justices we have on the call who have both all had externs and clerks, what do you look for in your applicants? What kind of students, do you bring in to work with you so that these students on the call can tweak their resumes and work on getting those tangible skills to hopefully land a position?
For me, you certainly want a strong writing sample. Research and writing is key. So you want to make sure that, you have someone who, you trust to, critique it for you, give it a set of fresh eyes. Sometimes you can look at something and your mind tricks you into, thinking that it's exactly the way you're reading it, and it actually doesn't say that because you've been working on it so long. So if you have someone who's not as familiar with it, read it for you, they are more apt to pick up, mistakes that you may have overlooked. So that is key. I also want someone that's self-motivated. Because as Joseph Deloney indicated, there are times where we may just give you an assignment. My clerks work independently. I give them an assignment and we meet once a week to discuss it, see where they are and, to discuss their ideas. But, for the most part, we have to be able to trust that you're going to take the assignment, what needs to be done, and you're going to get it done. Now, as an extern, of course, we may, have a little more hands-on, but for our clerks, you're going to have to work independently the majority of the time. And then finally, the experience for me is key. I want you to have taken advantage of the various externships or clinics that your schools may offer, so that you have actually been in a courtroom before you come to work for me. I'm not as, particular about being, in the, first in your class or whatever. I certainly wasn't. I want someone that, that of course is, that perseveres, may have had some experiences in their lives that they've had to overcome, and they've had to work through it, and are, willing to roll up their sleeves and get it done. So that might not mean that, they have straight A's, but they have some life experience, and, they work hard. And so I think those are the key characteristics that I look for in a clerk.
I can tell you for me, what I look at with the writing samples, I'm more interested in making sure that there's not, punctuation issues or sentence structure issues. I just want to have somebody who has a great command of the English language, both written and spoken. The actual legal writing is something that I will work with you, because it's a transition from a layperson to the legal profession, where you have a different language, different jargon, and things that you need to understand how you put together a brief or an argument. That I'm happy to help people with, but I want to make sure that the beginning product is somebody who has a good command of the language. For me, quite frankly, attitude is everything. I want somebody that shows some enthusiasm, asks a lot of questions, even if it's just at an interview. Many times I will meet prospective externs at receptions at law schools, for example. And I might extend the offer to feel free to stop by and watch my court call one day. And some people will do that and they'll follow up immediately, and others, maybe a month later, they'll get around to it. And even that shows, well, how much are you interested in? How much effort are you going to put forth in it? Because what you get out of it has everything to do with the effort you put into it. And if I've got a person that has a desire to learn anything and everything there is to know about the legal profession, or how a courtroom works, or how to manage a high volume court call, well, then you've come to the right place. As I said before, take advantage of the opportunities if offered, and they will pay dividends down the road.
And law clerks for me, I have 3 law clerks. I have one that is called a career clerk, who can stay with me as long as we both agree. And he's been with me for almost 6 years. There's a 4-year limit on federal law clerks, whether it's with one judge or a combination of judges. So if you clerked at the 7th Circuit, an appellate court for a year, you can only clerk at the district court for 3 years. Different judges have different practices. They only have 1-year clerkships. Some have 2. I clerked for 2 years when I clerked. I usually try and have 2 experienced clerks, and I'm trying to get 1 clerk right out of a law school. I like, just like Justice Walker and Judge Lopez, strong writing and research skills are a must. I don't really care if you can do a good opening or closing opening statement or closing argument. It doesn't matter. That's not what law clerks do. You have to be a good writer and a good researcher, and that's essential. You need that to be a good lawyer, candidly. If there's any advice I'd give any of you thinking of going to law school or one else, work on your research and writing. You'll never starve if you're a good researcher and writer. There is always a place for you in the legal profession. And that's really what I look for in a law clerk. Good research and writing skills, maturity, because there's an awful lot of initial decisions that get made at the law clerk level. So I look for maturity. And then finally, it's a small law firm. It's 3 law clerks and me. It's somebody I want to work with for a year. Someone who's pleasant, interesting. They don't have to be a jokester or anything, but just someone I would like to work with, a person I'd find interesting enough to spend an enjoyable year in chambers with, or 2 years or more. So those are the things I look for in a law clerk. I give a writing exam. And I did this learning. One of my former clerks applied to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Denver. And I'm not sure if Justice Johnson and Judge Lopez have found this, but my fear on writing samples sometimes is I don't know who wrote it. I don't know how many edits it's gone through. I don't know how many law professors have looked at it, if a spouse or a friend has looked at it, and how much time it took. We're a high volume operation. I have lots and lots of cases, a lot of summary judgment motions, lots of motions to dismiss, and we have to crank out opinions very quickly. So I look for someone who can write efficiently, research efficiently, and do it with not a lot of mistakes. So that when I review drafts, there's not a lot of rewrite if I can help it. And I'll go into the writing exam issue later if anybody's interested. But I do it because I'm not all that. I don't find writing samples necessarily to be a good reflection of a person's skill at researching writing.
Let me add to that. Some of my colleagues do the same thing. They'll give you an issue and ask you to write it and turn it in before the interview. But I would say that if you can, write a brief inside of, 3 to 5 days, that's pretty much what I'm expecting when you apply or, come to work as a clerk. And then also I would say Judge Lopez mentioned relationships. And who or meeting outside of the courtroom or the interview setting is important. Coming to events like this, being involved in the various bar organizations, really helpful because I'm not going to put an ad in a newspaper for my clerk position. You may hear about it, through someone that you may have clerked for previously, one of your law professors or the bar associations. So it's extremely important that you continue to build relationships.
Is it okay if I add something very quickly about the research and writing aspect? To all the law students, take advantage of certain programs and seminars that will teach you about research, advanced research. So for example, my 1L year, I attended the ABA Judicial Clerkship program. I think it's going on right now, actually. And there was a LexisNexis workshop that taught you all the advanced tricks of, using LexisNexis, the legal issue trail, things like that. And that made a huge difference on how fast I can research an issue. And I recognized that a lot of other students at my school didn't even know how to use it. And so some of those emails you might get from your local bar associations or from your school that say, hey, check out this seminar on legal research or whatever. It might seem like it's not important, or, you might say, I already know how to use Lexis or Westlaw. Just do it, take advantage of it, because you never know how that skill can, put you ahead of somebody else as far as another applicant.
And I believe that those memberships are free for a first year. Members of the bar. Also, I would add that, I lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me. I'll bring it up a little later.
Thank you, judges. I had a question with regards to federal clerkships or clerking right after law school. If you have an offer lined up, right? I've been kind of getting peer pressured myself, and I know people have asked me about this with regards to deferring your offer and trying to clerk for a federal judge afterwards. What advice would you give, and what would you say some of the benefits are of going that route? Let's start with Judge Durkin.
Well, if the name of the game in law school is to get a job, you want a job whether it's a clerkship or at a firm. If you have a job lined up at a firm and you tell them, I have an offer to clerk for a year, can you save the job for me? 99.9% of the time they'll say yes and thank you, because it enhances their firm to have people who have clerked at the federal level, at the state appellate level, at the state trial level. They want law clerks because they know you're going to learn good skills, good writing skills, good research skills. So if you, in fact, they'll give you a bonus. Usually when you, some of the if you clerk at the U.S. Supreme Court, the bonus you get going back to a firm is obscene. It's a huge amount of money, and it lowers as you get to the appellate level and then the trial level. But bottom line is, if you can get a job, and if you're lucky enough to have both a law firm job and a clerkship, see if the firm will let you defer. They almost always will, and then take the clerkship. They don't come around that often. And if you're at a firm and you can get a clerkship, a lot of people come from firms to clerkships. If you're at a firm and you can get a clerkship, take a year off from the firm. Again, they won't, absent, if it's a small firm, you may have a problem because they need you. But a big firm, hate to say it, but you're fungible. They'll find another associate to do the work you've got for a year. And then you can come back and step back after you're done with your clerkship, and they will welcome you back.
And some judges will, they want you to have had some experience, particularly at the appellate level. And I remembered my thought earlier, which was with respect to the importance of the legal writing, is that at the state appellate level, we hear very few oral arguments. Many of the cases are decided just on the pleadings. For example, just to give you a frame of mine, is that I was, my first day was December 8th at the appellate level. Since then, I've only had 3 oral arguments for our panel. So we have panels of 4, and we have to have 3 to sign off on each case or, attend each oral argument. And we've only had 3 cases that we've oral. Everything else has been decided on the pleadings. So, if you don't say it in the pleadings, you may not get an opportunity to say it. So it's very important that you have your writing skills, that you master your writing skills.
We had a couple questions coming in the chat that I just want to get to quickly. One is about, and everyone can kind of answer this question. It says, would you happen to know if emailing the courtroom deputy with your information, if you're interested in an externship with a judge, is something that's okay, or do they have to apply through various programs? So this is a good question to kind of touch on how our students can find these positions. I know Justice Johnson said it's not in the newspaper, so you're not going to open up the Tribune and find these positions. So how can our students find them, and what's the way to kind of go about expressing your interest if you don't see any specific posting?
I can tell you, in my situation, I know that all the law schools have somebody on staff who is responsible for mentorship programs and externship programs. Start with them, because they usually have a direct line to the different court systems, the different divisions, and Cook County certainly. But aside from that, take advantage of things that are sponsored by your law school, whether it's a reception to meet and greet judges, or a certain area of the bar may come and visit. And when you go to those things, don't stand in the corner with your friends. Go out and introduce yourself. You've got to put yourself out there a little bit, because if you're able to establish some personal connection with somebody, you may get just an invitation to stop by anytime, and you're welcome. Because I always remind people, our courtrooms are public courtrooms. Anybody is welcome to come and sit in. So if you want to come and sit and see what the court does, whether it's my courtroom or a different courtroom, you have a better idea of what's going on, what may shape your interest. And then since you're there, I think a lot of judges will spend a couple of minutes with you at the end of the session if you had any questions about what you just observed or what you just heard about. Those are all ways you can get your foot in the door. Obviously, if you get an interview, then that's up to you. There's nobody else who's going to sit in the chair at the interview besides yourself, and you got to make it happen. But getting there is the key, though. And I think there's a lot of judges are much more receptive to inviting people to come discuss it further if you actually meet them in maybe a social setting or something, a smaller setting, so that you can actually work, maybe talk one-on-one or in small groups with somebody.
At the state appellate level, our clerks, many of them are career clerks. So, you know, you would, I would say the best bet is to, if you see that there's a new justice being sworn in or has been appointed, they're going to need clerks. And so you would forward your, you know, your resume and writing sample or directly to them, let them know that you're interested. But again, it goes back to relationships. You know, they're not really posted. If, for example, if Joseph decided he was going to go work for a firm, that would create an opening with Justice Walker. And, you know, how would you know about that opening other than, you know, Justice Walker, you know, mentioning it to someone? He may tell the bar associations, who would then put it in their newsletter. Or Joseph may say, hey, I'm leaving. Are you interested? Or, you know, if he has relationships with the, you know, one of the student bar associations. I would also encourage you to apply to, we have a research department that hires on a regular basis. And what they do is there are certain cases that come in that are one issue cases, or they believe are fairly, you know, simple issues that can be resolved quickly. And so the research department will write that opinion and or ruling and send it to us for review. And if we agree, we just sign off on it. And so that's a team of clerks essentially. And so they often have open positions, and that may be, you know, an avenue for you as well to get your foot in the door. And then you would be in the environment where you would hear that there's a vacancy coming up, or there's an opening in one of the justices. Or as Justice Durkin mentioned, if, you know, the judge and the clerk are not seeing eye to eye and decide to part ways, and that happens occasionally, that would create an opening as well. But otherwise, you can just send your information to me. I'd have my secretary hold on to it. And then if there's a vacancy, eventually I may go through those and make the call.
Can I add one point as far as when you're networking and interacting with these different judges? One of the reasons why I wanted to clerk is that every opportunity I met, when I did meet a judge, they were always willing to share some of their experience. Most of the judges, they are exposed to a lot of law. They know what they're doing. So me, I tried to take up as much information and experience as I could. But one thing when you're networking, be sure to be yourself. So if you do end up clerking, you're going to be in a very close space with whoever you're working with. And so it doesn't make sense to try to, you know, not be yourself or kind of put on a facade or whatever. Be genuine. That's one of the things that I was very appreciative interacting with a lot of different judges and justices. I was just myself, and it was, you know, or just in networking in general. Whenever you're being yourself, it's going to make it's kind of helping you decide whether or not that opportunity is for you. You know, if you're always, you know, acting like, okay, well, I need to put on this. And now granted, you want to be your best self when you know, do interact with a judge, but at the same time, just be yourself and try to be as respectful as possible. And yeah, just be respectful and just be yourself. That's one of the things I want to add.
So we got another question in the chat with regards to externs and kind of who do they work with in the courthouse? Are they shadowing other court employees? Or are they typically working directly with the judge? Let's start with you, Judge Lopez.
Well, in my situation, they do work directly with me, because what I do call upon them to do or expect them is not only to write memos on specific legal issues that I may need for a ruling that I'm working on, but I do have a lot of self-represented litigants. So I will have them go out and interview them out in the hallway when they come in, because the more details I have about what it is they're asking for before they ever step up is a big time saver for me. And I can, if I know why they're here, before they step up, I can usually get through the case a lot quicker. It also gives the student the opportunity to see what is involved in, as I said before, moving a high volume courthouse. A court call, you want each party to have the individual attention that they need so that their case can be presented as quickly and efficiently as possible, but at the same time, be mindful of how much you can do without overstepping into, I'm not going to have them step up with the litigant, except perhaps near the end of the semester with me, just because I want them to just have that experience of standing in front of the court. I will also even have people present an argument, just without the court being in session, but I want them to be in front of the bench and present as a lawyer would present, in the hopes that I don't want the first time that new lawyers go to court be as a licensed attorney to be the first time they've ever done that. If they've able to do that as a student, I think a lot of the jitters or nervousness that you might have might be abated. I want you to be as ready for practice on day one as possible, and the little part I can assist with, I will do that. But at the end of each court call, I do have a question and answer for anything that they heard or saw or did that morning that they want to ask about or they didn't understand, or in some cases it was obvious they didn't understand, and I'll just explain that to them before I cut them loose. And it's been pretty effective. I think I'm very happy to see all the different areas of practice that my former externs have gotten involved in, and I'm very proud of their accomplishments.
Judge Durkin?
My externs in a normal setting, pre-pandemic, would sit in the courtroom, watch my motion call, watch sentencing, watch a guilty plea, watch a trial, depending on their class schedule. And then at breaks, I go back and talk to them and entertain any questions they have about what I just did. We do the same now. They call in and hook into videos of sentencings and bench trials, and they hook into my motion call. And then I do an hour call with them every week now. Later this afternoon, I'm going to do it. And I just go over any of the questions they have from what occurred during the week, talk about anything with them. And then the law clerks assign tasks to them, typically a motion to dismiss. They'll give them the briefs, talk it through with them, talk about which way we ought to be going, and let them do a first draft. And good externs, the drafts don't have to be edited much. Externs that need more work, if their briefs need a lot more work, then we work with them and gradually improve their writing skills. And I can tell if an extern turns in something that has not been edited. You should never, this is just a point of practice for everyone. Whatever you write, you shouldn't turn in your first draft. It ought to be polished. It shouldn't be something you get together when it's due at 9 in the morning and finish at 3 in the morning. Budget your time, make sure you've edited it repeatedly, and the work product will improve, and the person that you're giving it to will know you worked hard on it. So always budget time correctly so that you can get something done in enough time where you can edit it and edit it again and edit it a third time if necessary, because that's how you become a good writer. And then when it gets sent back to you with a lot of red markings from whoever edited it, learn from that and work on it even more. That's what you learn in law school, you learn it in college, and it's essential you have that skill when you get into a law clerk position or in private practice.
Thank you, Judge. Actually, real quick, Judge Durkin, we do have a couple attorneys on the line, and Ariana Taylor, and she asked me to ask you, what are some of the things and qualities that you're looking for in applications from second year or third year associates who are applying for those clerkships?
Well, I want to know what they've done for the last couple of years. I don't care too much about what law school they went to. I went to DePaul. I didn't go to Harvard. I think anybody that goes to one of the local schools, John Marshall, Kent, Loyola, DePaul, Northern, we don't have the advantage of the name of Harvard or University of Chicago or Northwestern behind us. And I think that means we try harder. So I don't really put a lot of stock in the school they went. I want to make sure they have a good academic record. And then I want to see if they can multitask, because law clerking involves a lot of multitasking. If all you do is, it would be a luxury to have one project to work on for a month. No law clerk has that. They have a dozen or 24 projects to work on in a month. And they have to be able to balance those. So what I look for if someone's out in a firm, I look and see what they've done. Have they done some research and writing at the firm? Have they learned the practice of law relating to discovery, which is a big part of, you never learn it in law school. You learn that at a law firm when you're out practicing. Discovery isn't really taught much in law school. And that helps as you become a law clerk, because a lot of what we do is manage litigation at the trial level. So I look and see what they've done with their time otherwise. If all they've done is read law books, that's I want someone more well-rounded, because I want to work with that person. When I interviewed with Senator Durbin for the job of a federal judge, he asked me what I was reading. I happened to be reading a biography of Babe Ruth, which was the right answer. If I said I was reading Keaton on torts or whatever, Williston on contracts, he would have thought I was a geek and I never would have gotten the job. So read something. Be prepared if you're interviewed to be at least be in the process of reading something interesting, because a person may ask you that very question.
Okay, well, I know that a few of our judges on the call do have 11 o'clock court calls or meetings to get to. So I did want to wrap up here in the next couple of minutes. So if we could just real quick, if each of our panelists want to give just a 30-second synopsis of some advice you want to leave our attendees with today, and then we'll go ahead and end. So let's start with Justice Johnson.
Okay, there were 2 notes that I made, and one is, as you're preparing your writing sample, take a look at the Supreme Court Style Manual. It can be found on the Supreme Court's website, and that is what we use to prepare our rulings and opinions. We follow the Supreme Court Style Manual. So you'll want to make sure to utilize that, and if you mention in your interview that you're familiar with it, you would certainly impress the person that's interviewing you. Secondly, I would say, as I indicated, I'm looking for someone who's self-motivated, as well as an excellent communicator, both written as well as verbal. And then finally, it's very competitive out here. And if you find that upon graduation, you do not have a position, readily available for you, don't be afraid to hang your shingle until you get a position. The law degree is very versatile, and I always say it's like a plumber. A plumber can go out, and as long as they have a business card, they can give work. Well, an attorney's the same way, and there are certain practice areas that you would be able to, get some basic experience, like I would say evictions. You can do small claims. You can do even, dissolution. More straightforward dissolution cases, just so that you're continuing to be active while you're looking for other work. As Judge Durkin indicated, he wants to know, what have you been doing? Okay, you haven't had a position. What have you done since law school? And so I think with those things, and of course, continuing to build relationships, that you'll be fine.
Thank you. Judge Durkin?
2 things, or 3 things. One is take advantage of the externship programs at your law schools. As I said, they're great, non-costly way to find out if there's an area of law you really like or you really don't. Are these people you want to work with, or these people you just don't want to deal with in the future? Learn it now in law school. A great opportunity to do it. If you're in Chicago, you can walk to these places. It's a wonderful opportunity. The courses that require you to write. I know it's easy to take pass-fail courses or multiple choice tests. Take courses that require you to write, and use the legal writing instructors at your law schools to improve your skills. It's so important. And finally, remember, your first job may not be your best job. In fact, your first job probably won't be your best job. Always have a goal, but keep working toward that goal. I got turned down from the U.S. Attorney's Office first time I applied there, and I ended up being first assistant. It's not always going to be a clear linear path for you to get to your ultimate goal. Keep it in the back of your mind. Always work your way there, but don't be discouraged if you have to apply 2 or 3 times to get a particular job that you want. Just keep trying.
Thank you. Judge Lopez?
A couple of things. First and foremost, I'm happy to leave my contact information with Ms. Pruitt if anybody wants to reach out. I am happy to speak with anybody further about these kind of opportunities. Because what I do is after I have obviously picked the best people for myself, I turn over all the other resumes I get to my presiding judge. And we have, in our division alone, we have 56 judges, and they're always looking for people, but I don't think they're as proactive as some judges are in finding students. So when I have all these surplus resumes, I try my best to make sure everybody does get placed somewhere. The other thing that I do want to mention with regards to all of you as students, you all have the same responsibilities to get through your education and the same pressures that everybody has. But I'm quite mindful of the fact that in some cases, especially with some minority students, not only you might be the first person in your family that has anything to do with the legal profession, you might be the first one ever to even go to college. And that's something that's your perspective is a little different. If somebody like myself, as I started out with, I was a good fortune. I had my late father was an attorney, so I had a lot of experiences and opportunities that afforded to me that I know people that don't have that kind of in your own family or close friends have. So I try to keep that in mind as well when I do interviewing, and I learn about the background, as Judge Durkin says. What do you do in your real life? What else are your interests? So just I'll leave you with that, and I wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you. And last but not least, Joseph.
Yeah, so I'll leave you guys with two things as well. First thing, give us all, the law students and pre-law students, give yourself some grace. Being in law school is pretty hard, and even passing the bar is very hard, and having a job, these are all difficult tasks. For myself, I know I got a lot of rejection letters and a lot of things like that, and sometimes it's really easy to let that let that feeling of defeat kind of creep in. But give yourself some grace and stay positive. It's okay. Like, even now, we're in a pandemic and there's a lot of things going on, and just try to maintain that resilience and be as optimistic as possible. Second of all, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or need any help. Service is a big part of my life. Like I said, I didn't have any attorneys in my life growing up, and so when I was in law school, I worked a lot with students, and actually 3 of my students got into law school this year. So I'm very proud of them. And so any opportunity I have to help out, just reach out to me. I think some of you, message me or send me invites on LinkedIn already. But yeah, I can leave my contact information, and yeah, good luck.
Awesome. Well, yes, I will collect contact info and things from Judge Lopez and Joseph. I just wanted to take the time to say thank you so much, Judge Durkin, Justice Johnson, Judge Lopez, and Joseph. TJ and I and the Impact Project cannot thank you enough. We know you guys have such busy schedules to spend an hour with us this morning. The recording of this, again, will be on our YouTube channel. It's just the Impact Project Incorporated. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the sunshine. And we'll see you next time. TJ is going to lead us in an incredible panel about careers in big law in 2 weeks. And we're excited about that. So thank you all, and happy Friday.
Bye.
Thank you. Well.